This is lesson 2.3, and this is on slope-intercept form. So before we get into slope-intercept form, let's actually talk about the different intercepts, okay? So the first one we're going to look at is the x-intercept. The x-intercept is the point or points where an equation intersects the x-axis, okay? So here I've highlighted what the x-axis is. It's going to be this horizontal point. So if you have a line or whatever the shape of your graph looks like, wherever it's crossing this x-axis is the point that we're talking about. That's the x-intercept. And so that's going to include both numbers. You're going to have some kind of x value and 0. It's important that when you're asked what the x-intercept is, you don't just give one number, but you give both numbers, right? Indicating that you know that y is equal to 0. So notice on this line, y is always equal to 0. The y-intercept is the same thing but inverse, right? The point where an equation intersects the y-axis. So anywhere on here where the line or whatever the shape is crosses this y-axis, that is what we call the y-intercept, okay? And that's going to be a point of 0, y, because x is always equal to 0 on this line. So we always know that our first number is going to be 0 when we're talking about the y-intercept, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and talk about slope-intercept form now. So slope-intercept form is in the form y equals mx plus b. And so let's go ahead and label what some of these are. Where m is the slope, so that's the slope of the line, and b is the y value of the y-intercept. So if I'm looking back at y-intercept, this y value can actually just be replaced with b, right? And so whatever that y value is, that's what our b value is, okay? And that's slope-intercept form. All right, let's look at an example, or a couple examples. So if I'm looking at example A, I would say that I would look at the equation, y equals negative 4x minus 2, and I would ask myself, what's my m value and what's my b value? So my m value is negative 4, and my b value is negative 2. The reason why we say negative 2 is because if I were to put a plus sign here in between these two values, I would still have a true statement. I'd be adding a negative 2, right? So it's negative 2 here. Okay, and then to give more of an exact answer, our slope is negative 4, and our y-intercept, remember what I said? If you're going to tell me what the y-intercept is, you have to put the whole point. So you need to have a 0, negative 2 in your answer, okay? You can't just say b equals something. You got to give me the full answer. All right, let's look at the next one. So if we're looking at B, example B, y minus 5 equals 3 halves x. So note that this is not in slope-intercept form. This does not look like y equals mx plus b. So what we have to do is we need to now take this and change it to slope-intercept form. So let's follow the logic here. We add 5 to both sides, and we get y by itself. So that's kind of the goal, to get it into y equals mx plus b. Y is always by itself, so we're just going to isolate the y, put everything else on the other side. Okay? So now when I'm looking at this, I can now answer the question. M equals 3 halves and b equals 5, but that's not what I'm asking here. I'm asking what's the slope. Slope is 3 halves, and y-intercept is 0, positive 5. Okay? So I want you to go ahead, take some time to do page 60, numbers 1 and 2, to see if you can do this on your own. Pause the video and come on back. All right, so let's take a look at this. So if I'm looking at numbers 1 and 2 here, I'm going to label what each of these is. So I'm going to think of this in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to label each one. M equals 3 here, and b equals negative 7. Okay? But that's not exactly what I'm asking for. I'm asking for which one's slope, which one's y-intercept. So I would say the slope is 3, and the y-intercept is 0, negative 7, right? So we always, for the y-intercept, we're always saying the x value is 0. Okay? Now let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is just like this example B that I gave. I have to set it up into y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so I need to move this 1, giving me y equals negative 2/3 x plus 1. Now it's in slope-intercept form. So I say m equals negative 2/3 and b equals 1. So my slope is negative 2/3 and my y-intercept is 0, 1. Okay, those are my final answers. All right, let's move on to the next piece. If I'm going too fast, remember that you can always pause the video at any point or rewind it so you can get some information or listen to it again. But we're just going to keep on moving on. So when we're graphing something in slope-intercept form, it's important to note and important to remember that you only need 2 points to draw a line. Think about it. If I have just 1 point, I have no clue if I draw the line this way, this way, this way, this way. I have no clue. But if I have a second point, so if I have 2 points, it's easy to tell that the line's going to go through both points. And I can't really rotate it at all and get that line through that point. If it's a straight line, I already know what my line's going to look like no matter what. Okay? So you only need 2 points to graph. So if I am in the form y equals mx plus b, this is what I'm going to do. Once I've gotten it to this form, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plot the point that I already know. We already know what the y-intercept is, so why not just go ahead and plot that? So we're going to plot the y-intercept. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to use the slope to plot the second point. And the way that we're going to use slope to plot the second point is we're going to use rise over run. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and add that to the notes here. So we're going to use rise over run. So I'm asking the question, so from the y-intercept, I need to go up or down, and then I need to go to the right or left to find that second point. And once I've got those plotted, I draw my line. Okay? So let's look at an example. Example shows y equals negative 3x plus 3. Okay? So my first thing that I'm going to do, and we're just looking over here right now. We'll worry about the graph in a second. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down what my y-intercept is. It's 0, 3, right? We were identifying it in the last example, so we should know what this is. So 0, 3 is my first point that I'm going to plot. And then I need to use my rise over run to use my slope and figure out where my second point is. So I'm going to rewrite this as a fraction so I can see what the rise over run would be. So this is going to be negative 3 over 1. I'm getting that from here. Negative 3 over 1. And negative 3 tells me I need to rise going down. So I actually need to go down 3 and then to the right 1. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do on the graph here in a second. And then the last thing is I draw my line. So let's go ahead and take a look at the graph and let's see what I did. So first point that I put down was right here, this 0, 3. I plotted it right here. Next thing I did is I kind of showed this in backwards order, but it doesn't matter. Either way, you get to the same spot. You go down 3 and to the right 1, and that gives you your second point. Okay? So you plot that second point, and you can kind of see the instructions here going to the right 1 and down 3 right here. So now that I got 2 points, I just draw my line. I take a straight edge, put it down, draw a line that goes through there, and you're all done with that. And that's how you graph. Okay, let's go ahead and do page 61, numbers 3 and 4. So go ahead and pause the video and do those problems, and then we'll come back and I'll do it with you, okay? All right. Let's go ahead and do this. So first off, looking at number 3, we're going to go through these instructions just like we did in the notes. We're going to state what the y-intercept is. Here my y-intercept is this negative 4, so 0, negative 4. And then I'm going to identify what my rise over run is. So my rise over run is equal to, well, here I have a 1 here. If there's no number written in front of the x, you can assume it's a 1. So as a fraction, 1 is the same thing as 1 over 1. So I'm going to go up 1 and to the right 1. okay? And then the last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and graph and put my line down. So instead of writing that step, I'm just going to go ahead and graph, okay? U4, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and give myself lots of room in my negative direction. I kind of make my graphs predicting how I'm going to plot this. So I know I need a point at 0, -4. So I went ahead and made my graph, gave my graph lots of room down in the negative section. Okay, next step, I'm going to go up 1, over 1, which gives me my next point. And I take my straight edge, my ruler, whatever you have, and then we're going to go ahead and connect those 2 points. We're all done with number 3. Should look something like that. Actually, I will say number 3 asks you to find the x-intercept, which means you're going to have to use a little bit of prediction skill here. And you're going to have to answer, where's this line going to cross the x-axis? And I can see it's going to cross right about there. So if I count that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember, my x-intercept is the x value, 4, 0 for the y value, okay? That's how you find the x-intercept. You find where the line's going to cross the x-axis, okay? Next one. This time I'm not going to write down the numbers, I'm just going to graph, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, give myself a graph here, and we're going to plot the first point. So the first point here is the y-intercept, which is 0, 1. And then I'm going to use the slope to find my next point. Go down 1 over 2 to find my second point. Okay? Connect those. I'm kind of purposely not putting all the instructions down so you can kind of see that you are not expected to put all the instructions down. You can just graph the line now. And my x-intercept here is 2, 0. That's all.